All right guys, today we're going to show you some quick techniques to help you determine what's causing your brakes to be locked up. Let's get into it. So here's the scenario. You get a vehicle, comes in with a complaint of, brake vibration, brake noise, maybe a smell. So you test drive the vehicle, you bring it in, get it on the rack, one of the wheels is locked up. We need to determine what's causing that wheel to be locked up. We thought this video would be really helpful. We see a lot of techs when I go around and train and stuff that they're like, they don't know what to do. They just, they think it's maybe a hose, maybe a caliper, so they just, put everything on it. So in this video, we're going to show you how to determine, is it a hose? Is it a caliper? Is it a caliper slide possibly? And it's just a quick series of tests to do that. Now, also, I want you to understand, this is if you've got one wheel that's locked up, maybe, maybe two wheels that are locked up. But if you've got multiple wheels that are locked up, it could be other issues. But if you've got one that's locked up tight and that's it, this is going to help you determine what that problem is, because more than likely it's going to be right down at the wheel. So let's go ahead and get into this little Honda that we got that's doing this exact problem. Let's find out what's wrong with it. Eric just took this thing for a ride just so we could show you guys. You're off the brake, right?
Off the brake.
That thing is really hard to turn, right? One quick test you guys can do when you get one that's binding up, or you think it's binding up. Do a temperature reading, rear brakes, 280 something degrees, pretty hot. If we come up to the front, obviously the front should be a little hotter than the back, 240 degrees. So definitely hotter in the back than it is in the front, which shouldn't happen. But you can go around and do those on all four wheels. We already know what's going on with this one. I want to get this before this thing, because it will, if you let it sit, they'll probably free themselves up. So how many times you had one come in that, oh, the brakes were bound up, and then you let it sit for a little bit and they unbind. Like that one's starting to get a little bit loose. Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to take our bleeder cap off, right? We're going to put our wrench on it. Go ahead and pump the brakes a couple times. Let off. All right, we're tight. All right, here we go. Be careful with that camera. I don't want to blow stuff on it. I'm trying to turn, so back up with the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm pushing pressure against this while I'm breaking this loose, okay? So, and we can see that thing did not break loose, right? We can see some fluid coming out. That's normal. So, again, still tight. A little looser. There we go. Now we're breaking free. Go ahead and hit the brakes. Pump it. Let off. All right, tight again. It's not breaking free. Not breaking free. Okay? Now, so what's bad on this vehicle, right? Is it the hose or is it the caliper, right? Well, the way this thing functions is fluid is pushed down from the master cylinder, obviously down through the brake hose into the caliper. Behind the caliper piston pushes the piston out. Brake hoses, when they fail, I'm not saying they can't fail in several ways, but one of the ways that we see them fail to cause binding is they'll collapse inside. So that's why you should never pinch off a brake hose, because you can damage the internal lining on it. If you look at that brake hose, the inside of that thing is about the size of the inside of a brake line. So it's very tiny. It's a really thick hose. So once it collapses internally, the fluid will go through, but it won't be able to go back through. Got a lawnmower going over here. Who does that remind us of? Holy moly, that's loud. He's trying to get ahead of the storm coming in. All right. So the hose will collapse internally. Fluid will make it through because there's a lot of pressure behind that, but it can't get back because there's not a whole lot pushing it back up and pulling it back up. So if we break the bleeder loose, so we're putting pressure on it, right? And we're taking this and we break it loose and it goes and just comes free. It's the hose, right? We don't have to worry about it. It's the hose. Put a hose on it. You're going to be good. Now, the kicker is how hot did it get? Because if it got really, really hot because it was bound up, then you've got other issues you might need to be dealing with or be thinking about for a long-term fix, which means that the seal inside the caliper may have gotten super hot. You know, it just, the pads obviously have gotten hot, but that's something you need to think about. But the root cause of the problem, we know, was the hose. Now, in this case, it didn't break free, right? It still was tight. So what does that mean it is? It's either going to be the caliper piston itself. So the piston itself is bound up and pressed against the rotor, and it won't come back, right? Because of debris in it, whatever. Or it could be the caliper slides. Let's go ahead and show you how to do the slides on this thing, how to check them. So go ahead, Eric, come on over with let's take the bolts out of the slides on it.
You're just taking it loose.
We're going to go ahead and, that should be good right there on both of them. Go ahead and loosen that bottom one up, I'm sorry. Now when you're doing this, what you're going to do now is, there's a slide inside here. We're just going to push it, right? We see how easy it is that it moves? Nice and easy, right? You see that, Eric?
I do.
All right. So then let me come up, see if I can't get my hand up in here without getting in your way. That top one, same thing. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. Right, so we know now that these slides are not bound up. Let's go ahead and let's tighten them back down. We're going to end up doing the brakes on this thing, so just get them tight for now. If the slide's the problem, if they're bound up, then you could potentially fix it by just lubing the slides up, as long as they're not so rusty and corroded that, you know, they're pitted and everything. If they are, you got to just dump them and get, you know, new caliper cradle slides, things like that. But if it ends up being the caliper bound up, well, we got to think about that heat again. If the caliper was bound up, it got super, super hot, we're probably recommending a hose too. The hose isn't the problem. What we want to do is we want to give our client the correct information. The hose isn't the problem, but if we put a caliper on it, we keep that hose has gotten super, super hot, then the hose collapses in 6 months, you're right back in the same boat again. So for a long-term fix, you would put a hose on it. So just something to think about. I know really at the end of the day, what I'm telling you is put a caliper and a hose on it if they're bound up and got hot. But the reality is we want to know what caused it first, and then we can make recommendations to the client. And then if they don't want to put a caliper on it, they just want to put a hose if that's what's bad, okay, as long as they understand the ramifications, and vice versa with the caliper and not the hose. So hope it makes sense. I hope you guys like this stuff. A really quick one, but I think very informative and very good to, to know this little quick procedure. Just be careful with these things can get super, super hot. But I hope you guys liked it. If you did, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification. Leave us a comment down below. Let me tell me, do you guys know this thing already, this little trick already? Was this new to you? We'd love to know that. So I appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next one.